So the last pass was preamp only, and we had the compressor bypassed. In this particular pass, we are going to go ahead and unbypass the compressor, and we'll adjust our settings as we go.
So actually, before we do that, though, I just want to put a quick little kind of description, explain the controls that we have on here.
Okay. So we have our ratio. I'll just go from left to right for simplicity's sake. We have our ratio, which a safe one to start with, 2-to-1 or 3-to-1.
Yeah, I'd say I agree. When you're recording, I usually like lower ratios. They tend to be a little more transparent, so you don't. If you hit it harder, you tend to not hear the compressor kicking in so much.
The key is to not overdo it.
Yeah.
If anything, don't compress, but if the average listener can hear what you're doing too much.
And you can always add more compression.
Right.
But you can't undo it if you added too much to begin with.
And the same goes for EQ, even though we're not EQing in this particular scenario. Next, we have the bypass button, which we had it bypassed for that last take, so it was just preamp. Our actual ratio button to flip through the different ratios. Again, we're going 2-to-1. These middle two are specific to the distressor, so I'll skip them. If you care to look, you can just search on the internet for a distressor. Next is very important. This being that this compressor doesn't have a threshold knob, this input knob is what actually controls the amount of gain reduction you'll see here when she's recording.
How much gain reduction are you usually shooting for?
We're usually shooting for, I'm going to shoot for about 3 dB of gain reduction. That's pretty safe to where even if you're not so sure about your attack and release settings, your 3 dB will almost never overdo it.
Right.
The more you get into the gain reduction, the more you start to get the color and the characteristics of that actual compressor. You can think of it as the harder you are working at a job, the more you might notice that you're doing it, or the more you might hear the sound of that actual unit. Next is how fast it kicks in. So how fast does the gain reduction actually happen? That's your attack. On this unit, all the way to 0 is the fastest. All the way to 10 is the slowest. So I'm going to start with it somewhere in the middle, around 5. So next is your release knob, which I'm going to start out with all the way fast. And that's how quickly, once it compresses, how quickly it lets go and stops reducing the gain. You can think of it if you had a fader or a knob you were trying to control real time the volume of her vocals. That's kind of what the compressor's doing. And the attack would be how fast you moved the fader or knob to turn her down, and the release would be how quickly you let it go to go back to where it was set previously.
Right, so the compressor, we're really just controlling volume, just like a fader controls volume. It's just that instead of us keeping our finger on the fader and moving it while she's recording, we're letting the hardware do all the work for us. So it's just detecting how loud she is, and then with the controls, we're establishing how quickly the fader's moving up and down and reacting to how loud she is. And then so we got one last knob here.
So at the end of the unit, we have the output knob, which is at the end of the unit as far as circuitry goes. So the output knob is going to control, once it's compressed, how loud it is coming out of the unit. And this is our last step going into our DAW, in this case Pro Tools. So the more you turn this knob up, the louder it will hit Pro Tools, and the more you turn it down, the lower it will hit Pro Tools.
It's basically that last volume control we have before it hits the recording. Yeah.
The standard way of doing it is you want to look, and let's say you're getting 3 dB of gain reduction, is you want to try to make up that on the what's either called output or makeup gain on most compressors.
Right.
So
let's take a look at how you set it. Let's go ahead and do some recording. Again, do the same pass, verse and chorus on this song. You still awake in there?
Yep.
And we'll just go through, let Wyatt go through his order of operations and how he kind of sets that compressor.
Here we go.
I'd go up against the biggest guy, and I'd take the hit and never cry. I'd lose the game 1,000 times, and I'd feel low to make you feel high. There's many things that I can do, but boy, I just can't lose you. 'Cause I can't face a day without you by my side. I can't smile unless I stare into your eyes. I can't remember a time when I felt so alive, and I don't want to, so I can't lose you.
Nice. So you'll notice the first thing that I went for was the input gain, because again, that if there's no threshold knob, that does control how much gain reduction you're going to see on the unit. And then as we went along, I had to adjust it when we got into the chorus because she got a little bit louder. Being that I have worked with this unit before, it was a little easier for me. You'll get used to units the more you use them.
Yeah, regardless of what piece of hardware it is, the more you use it, the more comfortable you'll get with how it's going to sound.
So if you need another pass, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and take that, because different parts of different songs are going to be different levels. So you can, you don't want to overdo the chorus to make the verse sound a certain way.
And always keep the communication with the artist too. Let them know that you have to get a lot of gear set, like as you're working. Like, it's a lot of times they might think they're doing their final take, and really what we're doing is still kind of getting levels set. So just make sure you're always explaining kind of what you're doing and when you're ready to actually do your final recording. It's just something I've done myself in the studio, where I'll maybe not have communicated that effectively, and then I start, adjusting the compressor and all that stuff, and then they might freak out and stop and be like, "Hey, why did I just get quiet?" It's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm making adjustments here. Just keep singing. I'll let you know when I'm good to go, and then we'll do some final takes."
And record everything, no matter whether they say to or not, or whether they tell you, "Do not record this." Record it. Record it. Record it.
Hey, is that what you do?
Uh-oh, you just gave away your secret.
And you'll notice from that, like Matt said, keep your artist in the loop, because there's nothing worse than being in the vocal booth and not being able to hear anything. So Trudy's been privy to this whole conversation.
Yeah, we've been keeping the top back on so she can hear us.
Awesome.
Okay, so level set, or you need another pass?
Yeah, we're good.
Level set. All right, cool. So we'll cut it here, and then we're going to go, and the next video will actually be recording the takes, show you some techniques of Pro Tools. All right?
Awesome.